suntan in the Caribbean. QB was on fire on Tuesday.
That's very gracious of you.
You know the show was scintillating, sizzling, engaging, entertaining, thoughtful.
The audience jumped in. We had great commentary and a lot of audience involvement. That always makes it great.
Your inflation expectation topic was absolutely fantastic. So anywhere you guys are watching the program on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, LinkedIn, 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, Instagram. Give the show a like and a share. Send us comments, commentary, opinions, questions, and thoughts, and you will dictate the pace and tempo of today's show. Anything goes as long as it embodies the golden rule mentality. We do not mind being challenged, disagreed with. We just like it to be respectful. I think that's fair. Don't you think, UB?
I think when you have disagreement, you often come to better conclusions. So
Absolutely. Disagreement is good for the soul, and it's good for a talk show, and it's good for viewership. I was having this conversation with friend of the program, Jim Hingley, Albemarle Commonwealth's attorney, who's going to join us on the show this coming month. All right, we're ready to rock and roll, J-Dubs. Judah Wickower is our fabulous director. Get ready, giddy up. Today's show is going to be hot. Judah, let's rock. Guys, welcome to Real Talk on a Friday. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. My name is Jerry Miller, and today's show is going to be dynamite. Real Talk presented by Yes Realty Partners, YesRealtyPartners.com, and Keller Williams Alliance, guys. And if you look at the screen, you will see the trusted brands and businesses that you can trust and count on in this community. Judah Wickower is our director, and if you can, Judah Wickower, let's go to the two-shot and let's welcome the confident, the charismatic, the cool, the crisply ironed Quentin Beckham to the program.
this is one of those shirts that comes out of the dryer like this. You know, I try not to iron.
It looks good.
You know, on the list of roughly exaggerated things, that's the one I want to choose to correct you on today.
What's that?
Well,
the shirt?
All of the other commentary about, me.
All right, so I'm going to cut to the chase. Tuesday said high expectations. We know Quentin Beckham is a thought-provoking guy. We know Quentin Beckham is an empathetic individual. And we know Quentin Beckham has a lot of balls in the air from a socialite standpoint and from an entrepreneur standpoint. And Tuesday's program showcased all those. Friday's program is right now. My friend, there's a lot we got to cover and a lot of ammunition we got to bring to the viewers and listeners across social media.
There's so many things that you could talk about. It's actually hard to pick one.
Where do you want to be? Oh, man, comments are already coming in here. Bill McChenzie wants to talk upzoning with the Belmont Market. Kara Bass, I see interacting with us here on social media. Kara Bass is a agent in Quentin Beckham's brokerage.
That is correct.
In Keller Williams. So that is a hot topic right now. All right, so much we want to cover here. Do you want to start with Russia, Ukraine? Do you want to start with the jobs report that came out this morning that was incredibly positive from an unemployment standpoint? Do you want to start local in Belmont? Where do you want to begin, my friend?
I think let's start wider and drill down. Russia and Ukraine, still a thing, still happening. And in spite of all of that, we've got this great jobs report. And when we were talking economy at the end of last year, what our expectation was for the first half of this year was that COVID would begin to recede and stop impacting our economy, followed by the supply chain unkinking and product flow happening, which would let us level out inflation.
Yes.
And now all those bets are off. Now, every time we do a sanction, every time we do something, we're impacting that supply chain. And I am curious from the audience, and Bill, I do want to talk about zoning, so we'll get back to that. But I am curious, me personally, I think we should cut them off as much as we can. And yes, it's going to take the hit, but I believe it's what we should do. What do you guys think? I'm curious in the audience, are you willing to see prices for gasoline be $5 and $6 a gallon? Because that may be what happens if we actually truly embargo all of that, which we have not yet done.
So Bill McKenzie watching the program, Keith Smith watching the program in the Caribbean. We see Charlottesville Superwoman Elena Mangione on the feed with a good morning and is this an orange or a sunshine emoji that you have shared on the feed here, Elena? We have also dubbed you the Queen of Greenleaf, Elena Mangione. Do we cut the Russian supply chain? Do we cut oil from Russia? And do we cut oil from Russia for the sake of geopolitical strategery? And do we cut oil from Russia for the sake of punishing Putin and his craziness that's going on right now? And do we cut oil from Russia? And Quentin, I'm getting out of your way for your take, knowing that this is undoubtedly going to impact disposable income and drive gas prices up and potentially impact every sector of business in this country because we are all tied to oil and gas in some way or another.
We are, and I think, this whole topic stretches the gamut from globalization down to local zoning. And I think you're seeing the Germany's already reducing use. Russia provides 30% of the natural gas to the EU. Ukraine and Russia together are 30% of the wheat or somewhere along that. So anything that affects other countries is also going to affect us. We're already feeling that. And if we embargo the oil, which is probably the deepest hit we could make economically against Russia, how much further will that push up gas prices, energy prices, when they're already up? And we're already looking at an inflation that we haven't seen in 35 years. How much more is it going to make that worse? And
Elena
what are we going to do about
says, cut them off, Quentin.
I don't disagree with you, Elena. I don't disagree with you. I think we also have to realize that means we have to do things at home to help make those impacts less for people that are here.
A concern I have, and we've talked about this so many times on the show, and the comments are already coming in right now on this topic right now. We're going to get to them here in a matter of moments. The concern I have, Quentin Beckham, is what this is going to do to restaurants, transportation, your business, real estate. What is this going to do to gentrification? What is this going to do to the finance industry? What is this going to do to the markets? I read this statistic to you guys before the show started. The S&P 500 has closed higher or lower by more than 1% in 7 out of the last 10 trading sessions. That's volatility right here. So let's talk each of these topics. How about first the outer county real estate and those that have purchased 45 minutes from the epicenter of employment? $5 a gallon gas is going to soften outer county real estate.
It's just hard for me to use the word soften with anything about buying or selling a house right now.
You really?
Because the inventory is so low.
Okay.
So I don't know that soften is the word, but I think what it is going to do is severely impact all of your disposable income, our ability to support an economy. Like 67% of the U.S. economy is based on consumerism. And so what we saw in the pandemic when we had that horrible drop was cutting that out. It's retail and restaurants and service industry and all sorts of consumerism. Anything you do that moves disposable income from the middle class into non-disposable income affects our economy across the board.
Perfect take.
So
I agree.
I don't know that housing's going to get cheaper, but the skyrocket of price appreciation is going to slow down. And you're going to have some economic hits where we just don't have a strong enough middle class to support the economy that we're used to.
What do you make of this take from Dave Miller, a residential broker in Richmond, Virginia? Okay? He has this take for you. As a residential broker in Richmond and looking at these prices in Charlottesville, I predict that we are on a potential bubble. A year from now, the bubble may burst. My response to him was this, and I'm curious of your take. You're the professional. I disagree with you, Dave. Today's market is very different than the 2008 real estate bubble because of tighter lending restrictions. Furthermore, owners are not using their homes as piggy banks, aka HELOCs. Today's owners also have significantly more equity. He responds by saying, I understand that argument, but I'm not talking '08 or 2009. I'm more looking at 2006 and 2007 when prices escalated so quickly. Your thoughts on this topic?
I don't know that I would call it a bubble just because of the definition of the word when we're talking in economic terms. And I'm not an economist, so look it up, find somebody smarter, ask the ERPs. By definition, the bubble is that rise with nothing behind it and nothing filling the thing until it pops and there's nothing left. And that's not what we're experiencing right now. But I do think you're looking at a higher potential for a recession. And we, by the measures that the economists gauged it, I read one of their reports in December that was about 7.7% risk of a recession for this year. And a lot of that is based on consumer confidence. The market's jumping up and down because there is a lack of investor confidence that's probably going to be copied or mirrored in the general population. And less consumer confidence means more setting money aside and less spending means a slower economy. And so I think really what you're looking at is a risk of recession more than you are a bubble.
We have Vanessa Parkhill, the queen of Earlysville, watching the program. She has a fantastic mind for finance. Vanessa Parkhill, what do? Do you stop or do you shut down the funnel or supply of oil from Russia to punish Putin here, knowing the potential collateral damage is $5, $4, whatever the number may be, high gas prices at the tank, which would then impact disposable income on Main Street and every other sector of business in this community. I'm curious of your take, Vanessa Parkhill. Philip Dowell, welcome to the program. Comments coming in here on Twitter and LinkedIn for Quentin Beckham here. You're an entrepreneur and you are a glasses half full type of guy. That's just the nature of this. Lee Elberson, we'll get to your comment from New Orleans in the French Quarter. So we have
Happy
the
Mardi
Smiths.
Gras, Lee.
I know, we have the Smiths in the Caribbean. We have Elberson in the French Quarter right now, offering commentary on today's program. You're a glasses half full type of guy. You're an entrepreneur, okay? You're also a realist. You use the R word right there.
I think we have to just be honest that there's a potential there for that. And part of why I bring this up is I want to get back to Bill's commentary about zoning and housing and how that affects wealth generation and the ability to weather things like a recession, the ability to weather things like health needs, temporary job loss, reduction in wages. Owning a home is a great foundational support to a family to weather these sorts of things. And so I think as we continue to move forward, we need to do things to be a good country and a good international partner. And there's things that we need to do to punish Russia for the stuff it's doing. And I'm very hopeful that larger government and local government realizes that this might make the decisions that were a good idea in January not such a good idea in March.
Do you guys agree? Put it in the feed here. Sir Neil Williamson, the king of content, says that here's the definition of a bubble for you guys.
Thank you, Neil.
We have smart viewers and listeners here. A bubble is an economic cycle that is characterized by the rapid escalation of market value, particularly in the price of assets. This fast inflation is followed by a quick decrease in value or a contraction that is sometimes referred to as a crash or a bubble burst. Typically, a bubble is created by a surge in asset prices that is driven by exuberant market behavior. During a bubble, assets typically trade at a price or within a price range that greatly exceeds the asset's intrinsic value. The price does not align with the fundamentals of the assets. One more paragraph and then the show is yours. The cause of bubbles is disputed by economists. Some economists even disagree that bubbles occur at all on the basis that asset prices frequently deviate from their intrinsic value. However, bubbles are usually only identified and studied in retrospect after a massive drop in prices occurs. Quentin Beckham, the show is yours.
So in terms of the housing market, though, these are not short-term assets. So you can definitely, there's the potential that something like cars, wheat, gasoline, palladium, all of those things, there's potential for those to rise and fall very quickly because they have to trade hands constantly. Their value is in their trip. Most people that have likely bought homes in the last 3 years don't have a 2-year window to turn around and sell it again. And I don't care when you buy a home or what the market is like, if you're going to stay in it for 5 or 10 years, you'll be fine. And so I think when you saw the market crash of real estate, what you saw was vacant homes with nobody to make a payment. And a lot of speculation in that. And I don't think that's the same thing.
Lee Elberson, I just sent you a Facebook message about what Lee Elberson said. I need you to say this on a 3-shot, Judah Wickower, because you're way smarter than me, the linguist, Judah Wickower. Lee Elberson literally said this on LinkedIn. I love you, Lee Elberson. I love you. He says, hello from New Orleans, gentlemen. I'm eating beignets in the French Quarter right now, watching you guys on Real Talk. And then he adds this, Judah Wickower, get ready for a 3-shot. And say what he just said on air, and let us know when that 3-shot's ready to go. He's in the French Quarter eating beignets and watching Quentin Beckham, myself, and Judah Wickower on this program. Judah, the show is yours.
All right, let me check this. Okay, I don't know if he's going to have to say whether I'm saying it right, because I've read it a lot, but I don't know how many times I've heard it. Laissez les bon temps rouler. Does that sound about right?
That sounds fine. I have no idea what you said.
Quentin Beckham. What is that?
It's French for let the good times roll.
Let the good times roll. Lee Elberson, Judah Wickower jumping in here and saving us over here. And Quentin Beckham just says, yes, that's right.
Sure.
That's
sure.
what I say right now. So multiple people jumping in on the bubble talk here on both sides. And I'm again, not convinced that this is a bubble. And why I'm not convinced this is a bubble, and I'll get to the comments here on the feed, is because A, we have such limited housing stock in this area, and people are sprinting to this area to buy homes. We are undoubtedly, Charlottesville and Albemarle County in particular, quote, air quotes, a Zoom town where people from outside of this area are moving here and working remotely through ISPs. Furthermore, UVA is welcoming more students than ever before this fall to the university and hiring more people than ever before this fall to service that additional student population. Furthermore, the School of Data Science on Ivy Road has yet to even open, and this $125 million facility is going to drive much more employment and much higher salaries to the area. I do not think this is a bubble because of reasons like this and the equity that people have in their homes. But am I reading this wrong, QB?
I don't think you're reading it wrong. I think the bigger risks that we're facing right now at a larger geographical level is a recession. I think at a local level, your current risk right now is more housing segregation based on a wealth inequality gap. Because we're not really relaxing zoning. You're not seeing tons of multifamily stuff go up where it could be cheaper to sell. And so just by virtue of that, we segregate neighborhoods and the city based on income. Because if you can't afford to make the payment or your debt to income is too high at the back end, you can't afford the house. So these prices are going up. They're probably going to stay up unless there's some massive government intervention or something that none of us can foresee. And we will be pushing people further and further away. Westport, Connecticut, there was a great study done in Westport in 2019 that followed how local zoning is really the thing that makes the biggest difference between affordable housing close to where the jobs are and pushing them further away. And so I think, you know, we have a lot of folks that can choose to work in the outer counties because they have jobs that allow them to do so, but most of our, you know, less than 50% of area mean income work in jobs where they have to show up. Now they're being pushed further out because they can't afford a house close by. Gasoline goes up, that affects them more, and we just create a bigger and bigger wealth gap. We create a reduction in disposable income, and all of the businesses that live and breathe in our area suffer from it because, as we were talking on Tuesday, you have to decide, can I go out and afford a $10 bowl of macaroni and cheese with my kid out to dinner one day or for lunch? And the answer gets to be no, because your gas to fill up your truck costs $75 now.
Ricardo Cruz Duran giving Quentin Beckham some props. I will give Quentin Beckham some props with the round of applause right there. We have comments coming in on Twitter, which I'll get to in a matter of moments. Nicholas Erpy says it was hysterical when Quentin Beckham says, sounds right, to Lee Elberson's comment on LinkedIn over here. Gentlemen, ladies, watching the program, I'm curious of your take. Do we shut off the oil supply from Russia with the collateral damage being less disposable income for Main Street? Elena Mangione, Queen of Greenleaf, our pain is minimal compared to the pain of the Ukrainians. We should be the best world citizens we can possibly be to stop the aggression. History dictates that standing by will only empower a ruthless dictator and a madman. I agree with the Queen of Greenleaf here. I think we do whatever is possible short of a nuclear global world war, which effing terrifies the hell out of me, okay? Terrifies the hell out of me. But I think we do everything possible, certainly from a financial restriction standpoint, to make Russia feel pain right now. I mean, am I wrong in this take, QB?
I think all the economic measures, we can all say, let's just go for it. Now, that's easier for me to say because I have some breathing room for what will happen to our local economy when we take those measures. So that might be, I might sound really sure of it because it's not going to, I'm not going to worry about paying my light bill as a result of it, at least not soon. And for other folks, they might be really struggling. And so that could be a harder call for them, and I want to be aware of that.
Empathy.
When you get out of other means, you know, when we're sending weapons is one thing. Moving military and that sort of thing, that is way above my pay grade and something that I don't know that I have a good commentary on one way or the other.
It's a precarious and slippery slope. When do you think, I mean, we're looking at the board here. Stocks near session lows right now, despite the jobs report. Any other day on a Friday, you and I, on this very show, would be leading the program by championing a jobs report that came out that shows unemployment was declining.
It was a much better jobs report than we expected.
Right. So a KPI like a jobs report like we had today, showing unemployment going southward, a good thing, would be reason to celebrate. But it's being overshadowed by market volatility tied to a war in the East.
And what you're seeing is, you know, the stock market is based on capitalism. Capitalism is based on investors, and investors are just hanging on to things. And so until this levels out and people can predict, the stock market doesn't really care whether things are going good or bad. They just want to know what's happening and be able to look ahead. And right now, there's just no way to look ahead.
This from Grayson. Jerry, he calls you QB. Ask QB what his realtors on the ground are saying about increased gas prices and the impact it could have on some of their listings in this community.
I don't know that we've seen any of that yet. So we're still watching. The things that we're still talking about is the competition, because although there are fewer listings and fewer buyers, there's still just not enough listings. So a lot of listings are just hotly competed for. And so we are still selling listings at dramatically higher prices than what they're listed for because of the amount of competition that's coming in and a sense of, for some buyers, almost desperation because they've been trying for more than a year to buy a home and have really been feeling the personal and family effects of not having one. The big thing that we still talk about regularly is internet and broadband, and the ability to have high-speed internet in places where it hasn't traditionally been an issue.
People are asking about the Belmont market listing. People are also asking on this feed, Wild Bill, I promise you we would get to this, Wild Bill McChenzie, people are also asking about the listing we showcased earlier this week on 1338 Chesapeake Street, $400K for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 870 square feet, needed a new roof, certainly some exterior TLC, and we'll leave it at that. It went pending in hours.
Yeah, I can't talk about specific listings because that
Okay.
would break the rules of being a broker. I can tell you that nothing that I've seen posted is surprising to me. I mean, we're consistently surprised when this has really been going on for almost 20 months. And so I think it's just more shock of everybody's wanting it to end. And so every time they see something that proves to them that it's not over, they're like, oh crap, I'm still fighting for this. And let's be clear, this is not the market we love as real estate agents. We would like a calmer, smoother, higher inventory market. It's just the market we've got.
Ricardo Cruz Duran just shared the show to his following. Thank you, Ricardo, for doing that. Are you, and I, I'm to have too much respect for you to go down a road that is awkward for you from a broker standpoint. Are you allowed to talk about listings that your agents represent?
If I know about them and the seller has given permission.
Okay.
So currently I didn't come with any seller's permission to talk about their listing, so it's not something I can do today.
Okay.
I will just continue to say this, nothing that you brought up really surprises me.
Not even pricing.
Not even the pricing. No.
Okay.
No, we still have an occasional listing that is priced so aggressively that they don't get the competition that they could if they were at a more medium price point. But there's just such low inventory. There's such low inventory.
How about this in general terms, because you know the corridor very well, that downtown Belmont corridor. You're a foodie. You're a cocktail aficionado. You love Tavola. That downtown Belmont corridor in general.
Drinking in volume doesn't make you an aficionado, by the way. It just means that you grew up around people that drank a lot. It's a great place to live.
It is.
It has some really good thriving businesses. It's not necessarily always easy to park in, but that almost makes it more of a locals hangout. You usually run into friends there, and so I think it's just a very popular spot and is central to a lot of stuff. So you can say that about multiple areas around the city. And I think what's important that we come back to is decisions about real estate taxes and zoning. Consistently, zoning and the ability of a developer to get a high-density development put through city council, board of supervisors, are the biggest things that matter in terms of housing affordability. And you see it over and over again, and it's not our city alone, it's all across the country. And that is the thing that tends to sort of centralize wealth. When you centralize wealth, you tend to also centralize high-paying jobs. And then you have service industry folks that have to live further out to drive in to the jobs where people have disposable income that they can spend, and it just locks them in. And so I will continue to just go over and over.
Well said.
We want really good internet access across all the counties and all the cities so that people that have the ability to work from home are not locked into a high price point to do so, or a higher price point. And as much as possible, we would love across a lot of continuums to have reasonable zoning density increases in areas of need so that we're not continually broadening the gap of wealth inequality and where they live geographically.
Ty Hines leaves this comment. It's a store that's part of our history in Charlottesville, right in the middle of a new built-up Belmont where houses that are old and rebuilt and start at $400,000 from a listing price. It is well worth it, the Belmont market, and I think that's a fair price for this area, I would say. 4 blocks away from the market, Near the pavilion, across the railroad tracks, they have the new $2.5 million condos. So those condos are the core real estate development, the Baldwin family across from C&O restaurant that he's referencing. He says the price for Belmont Market he thinks is absolutely fair. Not sure who has the money to live in those condos. The people that do have the money may not even be from this area, but the Belmont Market is a fair price, and it is not a surprise to me. This comment on the Belmont Market from Ellie Bretter. My grandparents used to own this store. I grew up in that house. I think they would be shocked at its price today. I would buy it just for the sentiment and the heartbeat of that home. So more comments coming in for Quentin Beckham. This from Ray Cadell. Ray Cadell, a broker, I believe, right?
Yes.
Ray Cadell.
Yes.
Fantastic broker and the king of the horn. That's his nickname on the show. Multiple offers are not in agents' best interests, regardless of what a lot of folks think. We only get paid once, and sometimes not at all if we don't win for our buyer. And if we represent the seller, it's just multiple work, and we still only get paid once. Your thought on that, Ray, Quentin Beckham?
I think that, whether you think multiple offers are good or bad often depends on which side of that tennis court you're on. What I do think is we want people to have places to live that are accessible, and it is really sometimes emotionally a downer when you've worked with a set of buyers for 2 years, attempted multiple times to get them into a house and failed, and it has nothing to do with your ability as an agent or their desire and competitiveness as a couple. It's all based on the market dynamics. And so we would really, more inventory is the only way out of this for housing affordability and for there to be a smoother market. And for affordable housing, that's going to require government.
Quentin Beckham dropping knowledge today. Bill McKenzie, Belmont Market includes the whole end of the block, Monticello Road, Meridian Street, and Belmont Avenue. Ray Cadell says I was more speaking to the sentiment that they are great for agents. The multiple offers.
As these markets continue, if you have the idea that a real estate agent is wealthy and driving around and sort of the movie image of a real estate agent, that's not what is happening. Most agents are working harder and harder for the same amount of money or just as hard for less.
Nicholas Erpy says, embrace the aficionado moniker. An aficionado is an enthusiastic admirer or follower. According to the dictionary, QB, embrace it, brother, and aficionados unite. I'm an aficionado of so many things. That should be my emergent title, Nicholas Erpy Aficionado. Thank you, Nicholas Erpy, for joining us on the program. More comments coming in here. Ty Hines, I try to be as educated as I can be whenever I can, and he's talking about the listing on Belmont Market too. The Belmont Market listing is the talk of the town right now, and interestingly, the representative, Kara Bass, is a team member in the fabulous Quentin Beckham brokerage. Why don't we highlight the brokerage in general?
She is one of our excellent new agents, yes.
You have on both sides of the mountain, right? Is that right?
So Keller Williams Alliance, Yes Realty Partners, all joined together. We have offices in Greater Augusta Association of Realtors. We have the downtown office where Yes Realty Partners works out of. And then the main office is Greenbrier and 29 in the old Northrop Grumman building.
I mean, the man is well connected.
And we have partners in Closure Title and Settlement, Atlantic Bay Mortgage, and Ally Property Management.
Yeah, a very, very well-connected guy. Christopher Eagle, welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us here. Does he expect, so this is, people want to know here. I don't want to put my friend in a tough spot here. People are asking if you think this is a teardown.
I think in this kind of market, everything that is zoned appropriately has multiple potentials. And so anytime, let's step away from Belmont Market for a second.
Okay.
If you have a really popular location that is surrounded and built up and it becomes available and there's opportunity that the city council would permit and zoning would permit to create more dense housing, this could be a great thing. For the Belmont Market, I remember I've gone in there so much, I know the lady's face that runs it.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name.
She's so nice.
She's so nice.
Yeah.
She remembers me. She remembered what I would get all of the time and see me walk through the door and get it ready for me. So I think there is a ton of history there. I think we have to remember, as with all things historical, sometimes looking backwards or trying to stop change is not good. So I would never want to see the character of a neighborhood take precedence over our need for more housing, not because we want to be a bigger city or not because anybody's twirling their mustaches trying to make money off of it, but we need places for people to live. And we just don't have enough. And that's true of rental as well as home ownership opportunities.
So Wild Bill McChenty says, for you guys and your knowledge, up to 5 stories with upzoning at that location. Up to 5 stories, QB.
I'm from Los Angeles, that's fine.
5 stories across from, that's literally across from Junction, right? I miss Junction. Adam, I don't know if you're going to open Junction again. I miss Junction. I know you own that building. I miss that restaurant. But up to 5 stories, QB. Any take on that?
We've just been talking about needing more density, and I'm not sure how we think that happens if we have limited land lots unless we go up.
Yeah, we're landlocked.
So I think we need to wrap our heads around that and start to embrace these things if we really want to make a commitment to having more housing for more of our community and not pushing people out of the city.
Stacy says, and Bill just left his comment too. Multiple people just left the same comment. Where do 5 stories potentially park in a neighborhood that already is confined from parking, especially on Friday and Saturday night? That's a fair response.
I don't know of any, as you've watched other higher rise constructions go up, part of the planning process is developing parking for those. And so I'm sure that would be included in any plan for any lot in any dense area with no parking that pass through zoning.
Erin King watching the program, Queen of Western Albemarle High School, one of their finest alum watching the show. And she says her name is Cookie.
Hi, Cookie.
At Belmont Market.
Oh, got you.
Her name is Cookie.
I didn't know that.
Erin King, you make this show freaking better every time. How about that?
I didn't know that, and I don't know French.
Erin King, am I reading that right, Erin? EK, the kind lady at Belmont Market that we've all gotten to know, her name is Cookie, right? Can you correct us if I'm wrong there? Thank you for watching the program as well. EK, Erin King, A Feast in the Purple Building is just awesome, awesome people. So QB, we've covered oil in Russia, and limiting capacity or limiting reliance on Russian oil to punish Putin, this madman, for this invasion on Ukraine. I think we're both in agreement that needs to be done. We have also discussed the collateral damage of what that could yield, and what that could yield potentially, we disagree slightly on this, is a softening of the real estate market in the outer counties. He makes a very compelling point that we have so many buyers that the outer county real estate will not soften. The point I'm making is people may be less likely to purchase in the outer county because of fear of $5 or $6 a gallon gas and driving to Charlottesville, Albemarle County for work.
That's true. Remember, softening means that item A becomes less valuable because people are choosing item B. And what I'm telling you is there's not choices. And so
that's a fair point.
So to say that there will be price pressures because of economic changes and rates going up, to say there's price pressure, like a downward pressure, sure. To say softening, I think, is exaggerative of what we're going to see.
Okay. David Varell watching in the Outer Banks right now. He's the former king of Dippin' Dots, now the king of the boat in the Outer Banks, watching in OBX. We love you, David Varell. Vanessa Parkhill says this, and Erin King confirms her name is Cookie, that works at the Belmont Market and provides you with Can we ask what is being purchased over at the Belmont Market, Quentin Beckham, when you're walking in over there? Are you getting
No.
are you getting SpaghettiOs?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I was reading Vanessa's
Mad
comment.
Dog? Mad Dogs? Are you getting Mad Dogs over there?
You know, some gum.
Okay, spearmint gum. We'll
Spearmint
leave it as
gum.
spearmint gum.
Maybe one of those small packets of tissues for the car. Things like that.
Okay. Spearmint gum. Ty Hines, I'm going to get to your comment here for QB. People are calling you QB on the feed. I freaking
You'll
love
like
it right
this.
here. Vanessa Parkhill has this for QB. Are you ready for this, Quentin? You ready?
Go.
If the United States returns to 2018, 2019-ish domestic production policies, we should see a benefit at the pump and less money goes in Putin's pocket. Remember, the source of most U.S. electricity is still fossil fuels. EV drivers and consumers of electricity in general are ultimately feeling this in their wallet as well.
Well, yeah, you expect all energy to go up. I think the one thing, and I'm open to being wrong on this because certainly not my expertise. A lot of how we have produced oil that we've shut down is not easy to turn back on. And so I think if I were a large company or a government official that was high ranking, and I'm neither of those things, I would be hoping that all of this volatility stops soon. And then I would just wait for that to settle because it's a lot of work to turn back on the refining. It's a lot of work to turn back on the production. And there's an article that I read a little while back that even talks about how older wells that we're producing that we shut off, if they're 5 to 6 years old, that's done because the pressure from the straw is gone and the oil is now out of reach and you have to re-drill them all over again.
QB. Ask QB Ty Hines how many affordable houses they sell in the city of Charlottesville and what's the affordable price. And he also says those $2.5 million condos are nice near the pavilion, but they ain't affordable. So we are in agreement, Ty, it's a great comment here. We're in agreement that affordable is relative.
Well, and again, I want to separate. There's housing affordability, which has to do, in my brain, with middle class and what we hope is a stronger middle class. And then there's affordable housing, which is more, you know, what can the average person or, you know, lower middle class purchase that is reasonable and close to their job, and that usually requires some sort of intervention. No, $2.5 million condos are not in my brain affordable housing, but as we've talked about last year, any added inventory helps take pressure off. And so if somebody has $2.5 million to spend, I would rather they go buy that condo than pick a 1,200 square foot Belmont house and bid it up to $800,000.
Okay, so explain that even more. Because a lot of folks, look, any additional housing stock is going to trickle down the pricing ladder and create or open other housing stock at different price points. That's what he's saying.
Yes. If you're sitting in an auction room bidding on a Picasso, who's going to win?
The wealthiest
wealthiest
person in the
dude,
room.
because there's only one of them.
Right.
This is what we're feeling in the housing market. It's the same thing we've been feeling in the auto market.
Good analogy.
And the auto industry. You know, when there is so little supply that it turns into an auction, if the product is highly desired and or necessary, the wealthiest person wins.
Leslie Neal, does he expect that Central Virginia will turn into an area where low-income families and service workers and those that don't have much money will just live in the outer counties and commute to the area that's in the center where it's the wealthy will live? I mean, that's I hate to say this, that's happening right now.
You know, I think it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And
it's been happening for a while.
And I think it was Neil posted a link to a really good article about density versus sprawl. I'm from Los Angeles. Los Angeles chose sprawl. And, you know, even when I was married and living outside of LA and we made 6 digits together and were reasonably well off, we still had to live pretty far out to afford a house and then just had to commute. When you grow up in LA, commuting's just something that you live with. And so you don't think of it as odd. I think the difference here being, you know, I live 8 minutes from my office now, and I love it. And if traffic is really bad, it's 11 minutes. And so I do think that we're already seeing people that are moving further out because that's the only place they can afford. And I think when that is happening because they don't have to commute, that can be a great solution for them, but it's not the reality for a lot of our population.
Ty Hines says, great answer, QB. I accept it, and you should run for mayor.
No, you don't want me in public office. Trust me.
Literally said that.
I would get, no.
Says you should run for mayor. I love it, Ty Hines. I love it that you're watching the program here. This is an intriguing comment right here from the king of Greenwood, Kevin Higgins. Ask QB what the average salary to buy any property in Charlottesville is in 2022. Even a roundabout answer will do.
That would require some work to give you a real answer. I think what we're seeing, though, is if you think that 50% of the area median income, if the AMI at 50% is, let's say, $55,000, $60,000 a year, unless you have some sort of help, you're priced out. So NAR just published statistics about buyers last year, and as you go through, it's very easy to see wealth disparities and disparities by race. So when you're looking at, they broke it down into African American or persons of color, so people that you might identify as black, whether they're African or not, and then Asian and Caucasian and Hispanic. The vast majority of Caucasian purchasers got a down payment from selling their prior home. They already owned something. Whereas when you moved across to Asian, the vast majority of their down payment was either savings or family gift. When you go to Hispanic and black, the vast majority of their down payment is FHA loans with the cheapest down payment possible. And so I think part of that rollout as we move through this is we have to bring the price down. And when we're starting to talk about affordable housing, you also need some government assistance to get in there, or you need a program like the Community Land Trust. And there are a lot of really high price markets that have seen a lot of success with Community Land Trust. The reason I'm really into the inventory conversation and about how every new home helps housing affordability is because the more we can lower the bar of housing affordability, the more effective each dollar is from a nonprofit or from a government agency or from any sort of assistance for affordable housing, because you're not having to build as big a bridge.
Nice. Well explained. Very well explained from QB. Kelsey. Kelsey, you routinely are contributing to this program. It's time to give you a moniker for the contributions you're making. Let us know the roundabout area you are, and you will be the queen of that area.
Which Kelsey is this?
This is Kelsey.
I know so many Kelseys.
Kelsey Klein. Do you know
Kelsey
her?
Klein.
Kelsey Klein says,
doesn't ring a bell.
Our family has struck out 3 times on purchasing a home in this area. 3 times we have thought we were going to be the winner of a home, and each time the home that we're trying to purchase has checked less and less of our checklist off. She goes, we are now at a point where our lease is coming up for renewal, and it's time for us to find a place to live again, and I'm afraid it's going to be in the renter market. This is not sustainable for those of us that are trying to buy a house for the first time.
It sucks. It really is. It's a terrible, terrible thing you have to face. And I think my only advice is to really reduce that list from wants to necessities and make some trade-offs. If you can get out of a rental market for a few years, your options when there is better inventory, and I'm hoping there is in the years to come, just are greater, because you have built up some equity, you have not been subject to rent increases, and it gives you a little bit more of a bump. So if the house that you can purchase and get into is no worse than the apartment you can rent, you might want to think of it as a stepping stone, as the temporary investment opportunity, the place you're going to park that money until something better comes along.
Well said, well said. Neil Williamson gives us an idea of income to purchase here. I will get to it in a matter of moments. The Queen of Earlysville, Vanessa Parkhill, literally says this: QB may have a point about turning the production back on being complicated, expensive. I wish it would not have been pulled back in the first place. She's talking oil in the United States.
Yeah.
But we are where we are. I'm all for restoring where possible and encouraging as much U.S. production as possible. Domestic sources are preferable, but if we're buying, we should be buying from countries friendly to the United States, certainly not supporting Russia's position.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think I think the hard part about how global all of our economies right now is decisions that make really great sense on Monday seem really bad on Friday, and you can't turn back time. And I think that's my point as in our local municipalities, as we're talking about real estate taxes and zoning and investments, are those, with what we're facing economically, do those make as much sense today as they did in December and January and February? And I'm not so sure I think they do.
Kevin Higgins, your question here is being answered. So here's the amazing thing is, Kevin's commenting on one of the Facebook pages. This show airs on 15 of them. And Neil Williamson is answering Kevin's question that I asked on the show in the comment section of another Facebook page. Charlottesville area median income for people purchasing homes in the city of Charlottesville. Okay, so Neil, please help me. Is this family, total family unit? I would imagine
Is it per?
Would be.
I think it's
household?
It's household, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah, so it's household. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, folks listening and watching the show, 2022 area median income for a household purchase in the city of Charlottesville, $77,795. Owner occupied, 57% of the rooftops in the city of Charlottesville, the household income, basically $78K, Quentin Beckham.
Yeah. I mean, just think, if you're out there listening, think, are you above that or below it? For your individual or your household income.
She said, look at how about this comment from Kelsey again? If you're going to buy a home in Charlottesville, not only do you need to be married, not only do you need to have two incomes, but you better bring in grandma or granddad, and grandma and granddad better be making bank if you're going to buy in this community.
And I think one of the other things we saw in the studies that came out from NAR is that the size of houses were increasing, and it was because of multi-generational living. So when you looked across the spectrum of buyer profiles, there were a lot of people that bought sold the home they had, bought another home, and bought a bigger home because they were either moving in grandma and grandpa or bringing in children or other family members and sharing that household. So this is and I'm going to go back to density on this. These are people making their own density because zoning will not.
Because they have to.
Because zoning will not. And so I think anything we can do, ADUs, higher density buildings, and there are some projects going on that seem to be leaning that way, although I don't know how that's all going to play out. It's the only way out.
I said about the Belmont market listing, because I used to live off Little Graves in Belmont. So there's Grave Street, which is the street right behind where Spudnuts, now Quality Pie is. And then there's a road right off of Grave Street called Little Graves. Mm-hmm. I used to live at 208 Little Graves. And this was right out of college. My buddy, JP, I'll get to your comment here for Neil Williamson in a matter of moments. Johnny Pritzloff, good people here. Got a comment via DM. I'll get to your comment here, Johnny Pritzloff. But I lived at 208 Little Graves. And dude, we were broke, destitute 24-year-olds. Okay? It was me, my buddy Tom, and my buddy Mike. It was 208 Little Graves. My buddy Tom lived in the converted Four Seasons room that we made into a bedroom. 1 bathroom, 3 dudes living in this house. We were paying like $375 a month. This was 2005, 2006. When you're in your early 20s, fresh out of college, the only thing you care about is getting after it and having a good time. Remember? You remember.
It's a vague, hazy memory.
Okay, you do remember.
It's a vague, hazy memory.
We were so broke that one of our buddies asked to move into us, and he converted the attic that had no HVAC into a bedroom and legitimately climbed a rope ladder to get into the attic. And we charged him $150 to live up there. We charged him $225. Each of us got $75 off our monthly rent. So we went from $400 to $325. He got $225 rent to climb a rope ladder into an attic with no HVAC at 208 Little Graves. He somehow managed to get girls to climb the rope ladder to spend an evening of entertainment with him in that attic. We used to walk down Little Graves. There's a cut-through alley on the back of Little Graves. There's this dirt road. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We used to cut through that little dirt road and go to Belmont Market to pick up 12 packs and cases of all we could afford, Natural Light and Bud Light, and bring them back to 208 Little Graves. So that neighborhood and that market has very much a place in my life that I will forever remember. And I'm fearful, but I understand market dynamics, that this piece of land, its best use is not a market that now often has empty shelves, sparsely collected inventory on those shelves, and is instead about to be raised. Raised is synonymous with knocked down, and 5 stories of apartments or condos built there. I'm fearful of that.
Why are you fearful? Why fearful?
Because of what you poignantly and eloquently described of changing is character the right word?
So,
the character of the neighborhood?
And I use that word intentionally because a lot of...
Let's let the Queen of Greenleaf in here right now.
A lot of zoning denials start out with current residents saying, we don't want to change the character of the neighborhood. And the people that don't get heard are the folks that might live there if there was a higher density and an opportunity at a more affordable house price. And so I think it ends up being a little bit of a one-sided conversation, and we as a community have to decide what's most important. We have to decide, is it more important that we have more affordable housing so that persons who work here can live nearby, or is it more important that nothing changes? And I think the concept that nothing changes is really kind of a dream.
It might be a pipe dream. So this is from JP, Ford Neil Williamson. This is the amazing thing about media here, and we have the Queen of Greenleaf in the house over here.
We have a live studio audience.
We have the Queen of Greenleaf over here with the fresh haircut. We cannot wait to spotlight the Queen of Greenleaf on the show here. In fact, we have a nameplate in lower third already ready to go, because we thought you would grace us with your presence. So whenever the Queen of Greenleaf would like to come on set, you are welcome to come on set here, Queen of Greenleaf. And you are the King of Greenleaf, Bert. The King of Greenleaf. So this is from JP, Johnny Pritzloff, via text for Neil Williamson, who's watching on social media, and also Quentin Beckham. Are you ready for this?
Go.
Okay. So JP, and congrats on the honors and accolades that you are earning, JP. Ask Neil and QB how much it costs to start a new home in a new development. It's like $100,000 in fees and pre-development per lot before putting a shovel in the ground. I can offer some background on this, Johnny Pritzloff. And then Neil Williamson, offer perspective, king of content and the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, and QB, you offer perspective. A $400,000 home in Albemarle County. $400,000 home in Albemarle County. 24% of that $400,000 list price, 24% is associated with red tape, bureaucracy, licensing, permitting, and all the mumbo jumbo that happens before a shovel goes into dirt. So you got a $400,000 list price. $100K of that is associated with red tape and bureaucracy and not cost of goods. That is horrifying, terrifying, and needs to be changed. QB, anywhere you want to go. Neil Williamson, jump in here as well.
I don't have any real knowledge on what the money costs are. I do know that if we could make it faster, that would help it all, because a lot of those are carrying costs where they've made an investment and maybe taken a loan, and they're hiring architects, and they've got other people working to get the zoning through. And when you spread that over 2 years, those costs build up. So if we could be faster, that cost would go down, and you would have an opportunity to have more affordable housing.
We have the queen and king of Greenleaf in the house over here, Elena Mangione and Bert, our friend. Hello, good to see you guys. You brought Four Roses bourbon?
Yes.
Dude, I love you guys.
Breakfast, right?
Four Roses small batch select too.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's one of the only things you can find in the ABC store.
This isn't the Four Roses, and Four Roses is not bottom shelf. Four Roses is a phenomenal bourbon, but the small batch select is super legit.
Yeah.
I know lots of people, we were talking about this, lots of our friends make
The Mangiones.
we make stops at the ABC store on a semi-regular basis. And people are looking at a lot of empty shelves nowadays and supply chain stuff. And I think there's a lot of bourbons that are available and other liquors that are available that are really underrated. One of those being Four Roses, which has an amazing story of how it got the name.
Oh, tell us the story. And then Neil Williamson, we're going to get to your comment where you're answering John Pritzloff's text message here on the feed. Tell us Four Roses, please.
1800s, the guy that started the distillery, Paul Jones, and he moved from Lynchburg, Virginia,
Yes,
was it? Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yes.
Became really enamored of a woman, and as was the custom of the day, sent a personal, handwritten, personally carried missive asking for her hand in marriage. They were seeing each other at an event later that night, and he said to her, just to make this easy on all of us, if your corsage has 3 roses, I will know that your answer to my proposal is no. But if it has 4 roses, then your answer will be yes. She came in wearing 4 roses, and to this day, we're drinking a bourbon in honor of this woman that agreed to marry the man.
And it's fantastic bourbon.
Did you mention where he was from?
Lynchburg, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes, Lynchburg.
Local boy.
So Ty Hines watching the program, he says he loves you guys and used to work for you guys at Mangione's. So watching the show literally as we speak. So
Hi, Ty.
we are setting up a microphone for the king of Greenleaf right here, Bert. Before we get the microphone set up, the queen of Greenleaf, Elena Mangione, anywhere you want to go on any of the topics we've covered so far. You undoubtedly have a mind and for money, for finance, for fiscal responsibility. We've talked Russia and shutting down the gas pipeline to America. We have talked the Belmont market listing.
Yeah.
Which is going viral.
I just saw that last night.
$1.3 million for this market.
I'm like, do I want to go back into another business?
Oh my gosh, we may have a buyer here. Maybe we broker a deal here for Carabas. Anywhere you want to go, any topic. And first, good morning, guys.
Good morning. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I'm happy to jump in if something hits me.
What do you make of the shutting down the pipeline with Russia in the United States?
I mean, I think we're going to feel the pinch of this more so than just, our heartbreak. And, we're going to have to feel it in our pockets. We're going to have to, I think shutting it down is the right answer. I think all sanctions hit them where it hurts, and money hurts. And without that, and, Europe's already taking actions and seizing property and things like that. So I feel like we could do our part as the good citizens.
Bert?
Well, I think
And get real close for us there, Bert.
No, I think we're going to feel the pinch. I also think the folks, particularly in Europe, that have really gone down the path of climate change and have tried to measure themselves on how well they're not putting pollutants in the air, are going to have a tough choice to make, because they're going to have to go back to gas and oil and coal instead of the natural gas that they're getting from Russia right now.
You guys, the proprietors of a fantastic brand, Mangione's on Main, okay? We missed the restaurant, and your time running the restaurant, I would say, was an experience of incredible bliss and also some heartache. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So here's the question I have: if we get to $5 or $6 a gallon gas, which very well we could, if we shut off a Russian supply chain or a Russian pipeline of oil. I'm playing devil's advocate with you because I think we should do this. I'm terrified of what this could do with minimizing disposable income on Main Street. And the Main Street I mean here is not the Main Street in Charlottesville, but the Main Street of like mom and pop locally owned businesses. Your thoughts, anywhere you want to go on this?
I agree. I mean, we've been feeling the hurt of these things for a couple of years based on the pandemic and then the supply chain shutdown and the port gridlock. And it's just another thing that we can overcome. And I do feel for the people that, it's going to hurt. And, I think, but not only will we be good citizens of the world, we also have to be good citizens to Main Street and the mom and pops and our local businesses and our neighbors and do what we can to help them and support them and not, if their prices have to go up because gas prices are going up and the supply chain is trickling down to them, then we have to still support them and make sure that they know that we're here for them.
Tim and Quentin, this is for you. Jump in here too. Tim Hedgemeyer, am I getting your last name correctly, Tim? I apologize if I'm messing it up. You guys have to talk about this, he says, but businesses are also being priced out of Charlottesville as well.
Well, yeah, as rent goes up for residences, it goes up for commercial as well. Now, we've seen a lot more commercial spaces open, so we haven't experienced it quite so dramatically. But there is that, and then all of the cost of goods. If restaurants that serve steaks, they're paying a lot more for steaks today than they were a year ago, and they're harder to get. And I think what affects one affects all.
Have you gone out and tried to order chicken wings lately at a restaurant? I love chicken wings.
Me too.
And it's like $18 for a half a dozen.
$18 for
yeah.
half a
Remember
dozen.
when you used to get 25-cent wings? But we're still going out and supporting those, those restaurants because, they have to pass it on to us. Otherwise, we're not going to have anywhere to go. And that's just the crux of the matter.
Can you put in perspective when you started seeing the cost of goods getting out of control? Like timeline-wise? And what is the adaptive measures that restaurants can take besides price increases? I mean, they can start considering menu revamps.
Sure. Paring down the menu, taking out some of the more costly items, just not making them available. People can, a lot of things people can make at home, but we do this because we want to go out. We want the atmosphere. We want the ambience of our favorite restaurant, of Tavola, of, Public Fish, so I'm not just plugging them namelessly. These are my favorite restaurants.
I know you love it. Yeah.
So we could pare down what is just too costly and try and focus on that, but we can still go out and buy a dozen oysters from the fish market somewhere and crack them ourselves, but we're missing out on the joy of being around people and an atmosphere and things like that. So, just limiting what is offered. Don't take it out on the staff. I mean, you can't.
Oh, please, no.
Yeah, you just can't. You have to, cherish your staff and hope that they're there, and they show up and they can help you continue the business on. And so, as long as you're doing what you can for them, and as far as like feeling what other things you can do. Do you minimize hours that are not necessarily high producing revenue?
Closing, that's why we see a lot of Monday, Tuesday closings.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's why I was generally open on Sundays and Mondays because everybody else was closed.
Right, which was a smart move.
And Tuesdays and Wednesdays were slow days for us, so we closed down on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It wasn't a popular idea, but it had to be done. You couldn't find staff to work on those days because they were not beneficial to them either. It's just, it's hard, but you adjust. And I think that Main Street people do adjust. They figure out how to do it without, with the higher costs and without as many resources.
Well, I think what some folks are missing is the rising in prices was not just chicken or beef. It was all the things to make tomato sauce or all the things to make flour to coat your chicken dishes, and everything went up, and then everything was missing. So, like an Italian restaurant, chicken's very popular. When you can't get chicken when you're having to go find chicken at some store, you're wasting hours of your time just trying to find anything because your big wholesalers like Cisco
Yep.
and company are out, and Costco is out, and you're just sitting there going, okay, we've got 6 chicken dishes tonight, and I paid 6 times what I should be for chicken.
And I think one of the ways to make it possible for local citizens to be good citizens locally in addition to globally is higher density housing, because if you have no disposable income,
You can
there
cut
will
your
not be
reliance on
anybody
car.
to go to these restaurants.
Yeah.
There will not be people to go. And if you want a strong economy, you absolutely must have a strong middle class, and the middle class must have access to disposable income and the places to spend it. And the more we push, the more we make it harder to live, the less housing availability. It's just one slow nail after another. And so we want to support Ukraine. And then I think citizens in our locality need to be looking out for one another and using their voice at municipal meetings like Board of Supervisors and City Council, and hopefully that they're thinking of how to keep all of the local businesses that have local residents that are in middle class jobs close in and with enough income to survive.
Well said, well said. This from the king of Greenwood, Kevin Higgins, for the king and queen of Greenleaf. Look, it literally says on your name on screen so you can see king and queen of Greenleaf. Do you see it right there?
I didn't even know how that
It
came up.
literally says it on screen right here. Kevin says, I'd love to know her thoughts on how a corporation like BW3s is surviving right now.
Like who?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh,
BW3s.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, economy of scale. They're a chain, and
They're buying in bulk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they have resources, and they probably have very good contracts with some of the suppliers that they have first dibs. So what's left over for the smaller area shops is we don't have contracts. We buy what we need for that week and hope that it's there.
So help me understand this. And is it almost like they're buying futures here with wings?
Oh, it's possible. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about their business models, but I mean, I can only assume that they're
doing that.
they set up a set price and it gets renegotiated every year or every couple of years, or perhaps they just have a flat discount price on the cost of goods sold. So if chicken goes from $3 a pound to $10 a pound, while the rest of us are paying $3 a pound, they're paying $1.50, and while the rest of us are paying 10, they're paying 5, and so they don't have to raise their prices nearly as much. If you figure, off the cuff, if a food cost rate is 40%, then if that's 40%, then now you're talking about a $18, $20 plate, it was $16, $18 plate versus a $12 plate at Buffalo Wild Wings, which is gonna, it's gonna do well because it is affordable food, and so that's my.
And I think they also have access to different supply chains than local businesses. How they acquire and have items delivered is just a whole different ballgame when you're talking about national chains.
I was talking with a friend of the program, Andy McClure, about this, and he has a lot of restaurants. The Virginian, the Biltmore, Citizen Burger Bar, Bell. He has Citizen Burger Bar, Carytown. I forget the more higher dining. It's Grisette in Richmond he has. And he explained to me that as he was opening more restaurants and brands, he was shaving percentage points off food and cost of goods with big-time providers. And the big providers are, and help me here, Elena, we learn from you all the time, Cisco,
PG,
Performance Foods, right?
Yeah, Performance Group.
US Foods.
US Foods.
US
and-
Foods, yeah. So this one, Michael Bullock, energy is a world commodity. If we limit any sources, everyone will pay more. This hurts the little guy and those on fixed incomes the most, and those are already being hit hard with inflation. If you want to punish Putin and Russia that way, it'll be on the backs of the most economically vulnerable worldwide. And that's true.
Well, it's always been the case that when there is an economic issue or when there is any sort of monetary inflation, the people that suffer the most are people at the lowest end of the income scale, because they don't have the flexibility to deal with it. And I think we'll see that regardless. And so I think that just restates, as we're going through talking about what we can do for affordable living, we have to remember what's going to go on whether we embargo oil or not. We're already seeing inflation, we're seeing volatility, and how it's going to affect these people. And I think it makes a difference in how we should vote. It makes a difference in how we should spend the money, those of us that have it to spend, and the voices that you should be hearing at council meetings and board of supervisors meetings.
Well said. Well said. What did you make of the statistic? And Neil Williamson responds to Johnny Pritzloff here. The dearth of lots ready for development have driven lot prices up dramatically. Consider North Point was approved in 2003, and houses are now being constructed 19 years later. What did you make of the stat? And Bert, I'll throw this to you. Elena, you jump in as well. That you take a $400,000 home in Albemarle County, list price, and $100K of that $400,000 is associated with not bricks or drywall or appliances or granite or hardywood, but instead associated with red tape and permitting and governmental bureaucracy.
I think I've only experienced the permitting side of it, which is when you have a house that was built in the 50s and you want to do something with it, now you're subject to the 2020 rules and regulations that go in. So you have a stairway in the back. If you try to touch that stairway, you've got to rebuild it from scratch. And red tape, it seems to be the way cities are paying for their
City stuff.
City stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of experience in having to pay those bills. However, I can see why they occur. We sort of let them occur just so that we have a tax base to work from.
Well said. Elena, what's on that beautiful brain of yours?
Nothing. I'm sorry, I got distracted by the TV.
We have CNBC on here in the studio over here on Market Street.
I was listening, but yes, I mean, because we're married, we went through the same pain on the permitting process.
How long did it take? Did you guys remodel the house? Is that what you did?
We did.
Yeah.
And it took, I don't know, like a year and a half maybe, from start to finish. And part of that was trying to find the right build design company or architect, and then just working through getting the stuff. I'm glad we did it when we did, because
now it would be way more expensive.
It would have been way more expensive.
Yeah. QB, thoughts?
I was just thinking about Michael talking about energy and that sort of thing, and I think if we do go into like deeper sanctions and we do cut off energy supplies, the goal would be to limit the uncertainty and end the conflict, because economically it's easier to take a hard, quick jab than it is to take a long, slow, steady beating. And we're already on the train to a long, slow, steady beating. If we can cut this down and do it quicker, you have a better chance of recovering. Michael's exactly right. Energy is a commodity that any source affects everything. We are completely global in that regard. And it's already happening even without the sanctions. If we could reduce the duration of the conflict, you end up being able to recover better on the long end.
How do you think we can do that?
If we could make it so painful that at least it moves them into diplomatic talks, then there's opportunity for corridors to happen for goods to flow. Right now, there are no goods flowing through that area. I do believe they agreed on corridors for humanitarian aid just yesterday or this morning. Not sure what time it is their time. But so long as that entire country and Russia is focused on this, all economies are suffering. We're just trying to make more of it be Russia's suffering than everybody else.
Here's and I'm going to just use the word, here's the really crappy part about all this here, is we have, coming out of COVID, inflation, we have small businesses that are trying to figure out how to pull through this pandemic now that we're in the latter stages. Hopefully they are. We have interest rates rising. We have, take the city of Charlottesville, assessments, 12% on average across the city went up. Historically black neighborhoods, 10th and Page, 20% they went up. Orangedale, they went up 20%. Wait till we get our personal property taxes coming out with used cars. Personal property taxes are expected to be 24% higher year over year, because the used car market is freaking insane. And the Todd Divers, the tax guy, has to utilize market value of these used cars when doing personal property assessments, and those we all know are astronomical. So we're getting hit from every freaking side of this. And now this war on the other side of the world is going to make it $80 to put gas in our cars?
Well, and on top of that, one more thing on the restaurant issue is they're talking about raising
The meals tax.
The meals tax,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
ow! I mean, just we've taken it in the gut for so long.
Right.
We're just getting kicked while we're down. I say we as if I'm still there, but I mean,
You have friends?
Your heart is still there.
Yeah, I mean, I do have friends, and it's going to hurt the people that have, in city of Charlottesville, you're already paying 6% on top of the 5.3%. So you're paying 11.3% on top of your meal before you tip. So your meal costs, hopefully, 31.3% at least more than the $10. So it's just, it's unbelievable that they even consider that at this point. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God.
And how about, I can't wait to get your take on this, okay? How about the 10-cent tax rate increase they're considering? You got a take on that? I know you do.
I do, but I think I think I was talking to you about how California does it. Like people who have done nothing but just live in their house don't have to feel the pain of the tax increases. So or the market value increases. So in California, you pay based on your basis versus based on the market value until it's sold, and then that person assumes the
new
tax
one.
bill.
The new one. Yeah.
So I think there's a couple proposals about eliminating the age restriction for tax relief and only making it based on income. But I also think that the income that they're suggesting is not sufficient enough to sustain a family or generations of people that have been living in their homes here in Charlottesville to sustain another tax increase.
Giving you props. That's the clap track right here. Very innovative clap tracker we have here on the show here.
And part of why I wouldn't want to be mayor is I understand they have a great deal of pressure to find money from somewhere to do things to make citizenry happy. But I think the very folks that we're trying to serve with that money, we will just push out.
Thank you.
We will just push
This
them out
is
of
so
the city.
obvious. This is so frustrating to me. It's like, why don't we just run this like a freaking business, like we're trying to run this or yours or that one? I mean, doing, and maybe you guys have a take on this. I know you certainly do. Doing a $75 million school reconfiguration project that isn't going to be ready for years on the backs of taxpayers is literally going to do a school reconfiguration for wealthy people that can withstand the tax increase and not the people we're trying to serve today. Isn't this obvious? This seems so obvious.
It's probably less simple sitting on city council and knowing much more about
Less
what's
obvious.
going on. So I don't want to behave like the bad customer at the restaurant that's complaining when they know nothing about what's happening in the back of the house.
Okay.
So let's give them a little leeway for that, and at the same time continue to push our point that we really do want all income levels that work and have kids and go to schools in the city to be able to live in or near the city, because it just makes everything better, and it's also just the right thing to do.
Well said. This is for...
If we're going to do the right thing for Ukraine, and I think we should, let's make sure we're also doing the right thing for Charlottesville and Albemarle.
Thank you.
We can do them all at
Please,
the same
can we
time.
do that? This is Michael Bullock. This is a good one for Elena and Bert here. Where is leadership's plan to cut the spending? Every citizen is contracting their spending right now because we have to. Shouldn't government do the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Sorry, good point. Do I get the clap machine?
Yeah, here you go. Here's the clap machine. It's the top left button right there if you want it.
I think that, not to sound like the progressive or the, person
you
screaming
are.
from the soapbox to tax the rich, but, since this type of renovation would be serving the most affluent of the people that were going to be able to remain here, perhaps consider a wage base with deductions and say, if you make over this, not based on federal, because everybody's got anybody with their own business has a wacky federal tax return, but, if your income is over this, then you pay a school tax like in DC, or a stadium tax or something like that, so that people at a certain income level who can potentially, and I'm sorry, I know everybody's got a circumstance, but people at a certain income level could potentially be the people to fund the school that's going to benefit them the most.
Any thoughts, Bert?
Well, I keep thinking when I first saw the 75 million, I think my first thought was, what are they doing for 75 million?
Right.
And
That's one school.
It just seemed.
And it's a renovation. It's not even a new
It's
build,
not
right?
even new construction.
I
It's
was like-
one school.
I said, are they getting spas or something? I just had no idea that you could spend $75 million renovating
Is
the insides of.
is it the school and all the furnishings and all the durables and all that sort of
It's
thing?
the school, and it also has included like exterior athletic facilities associated with the school. So like a track around a soccer field is part of this. It's you know, the sports stuff associated with it as well. Jason says this, which is a great comment. He has a link to the city school pay scale off their website. If a pay step is a year, a city teacher with a bachelor's degree takes 13 years minimum to make the median income to own a house in Charlottesville City. Will any of the 10-cent tax rate increase be used to pay teachers to help them afford our city? Top
She's
left.
looking
top
for-
left. I mean, give it to the people.
Yes.
Teachers are tragically underpaid.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, the trick with government, we've talked about running this like a business. No business succeeds by just cutting costs. Government's the same thing. It's not about how much money they spend, it's about where they're spending it. And are they spending it in ways that support people that are median income or down enough that they can be economically viable participants in the local economy? And there are ways to spend government money where you actually get a return on that investment, much like we have in business. And so it's not that they should spend less, but we really should be thinking about how they spend it and where it goes.
This comment for Elena and Bert. Bert Krinks and Elena Mangione from Lauren. I miss Mangione's and I miss your food. Do you feel a sense of relief that you closed at the right time with everything that is happening right now? It's a great question.
That wasn't why we closed, and I don't feel relief. You know, we had to let people go. We had to lay off employees. We tried to take care of them as best we could.
You guys did well by that.
We tried.
We tried. We did
Yeah.
try, and I feel like I mean we were done. We enjoyed it. You know, we enjoyed it as much as we could. We suffered as much as we were able to. Our lease was ending, and we just decided it was a good time for us to get out of the business.
Well said.
And so I don't know if it's necessarily relief. It's just
It was time.
It was time, and it was the end of an era for us, a period of time for us.
Yeah, she said it all. I mean, I think we had to have a big sit down with friends like Quinn and back in September or October timeframe that, okay, our lease is coming up, what are we going to do? And we went ahead and extended it 6 months just so we felt we could get our hands around things. And it was like, it's time.
And I will say what they won't, in that a lot of what kept them in as long as they did was how committed they were to their staff.
Yeah.
At times when pandemic were shutting their doors, when there was not enough staff to keep the restaurant open more than 3 days a week, or it was just closed entirely, their extension and the last multiple months that they had was because their kitchen staff and back in house staff had done such a stellar job, been really committed and gone above and beyond, and they wanted to pay that back.
Including Ty Hines.
Including
Ty's watching right now. It's watching right now. How about this one as we wind down the program here? What is their favorite bourbon? You guys
Are we only allowed one? Why are we only allowed one?
There are bourbon aficionados at this table right here. There's four of us. Judah, also a bourbon fan. This may be the bourbon club here of Charlottesville. What is your favorite bourbon?
I think my kind of go-to daily is Knob Creek.
Knob Creek, nice. That's a good daily.
It makes a very boozy Manhattan old-fashioned.
Or the Burt Old Fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Burt's Old Fashioned, right?
That is correct.
Elena?
Interesting. I don't really like Knob Creek as much as these two do. So it's not my preference, and I've actually been branching out into ryes a lot more.
Whoa.
I'm really enjoying it. They're smooth. I like Michter's rye.
Okay.
Is it Willet? The Willet rye. And I prefer a softer bourbon like Bibb and Tucker or something a little bit more rounded and velvety versus harsh and boozy.
And I think, I'm not sure if Judah has it, but if you're listening to us talk about drinking a whole lot, I want you to know where we get it. Keith and Yona are gone, and they miss us dearly because, why?
I believe Keith
why
is
wouldn't
literally
you?
watching right now.
Why wouldn't you miss us?
He's watching right now.
From
on
his beach
vacation
chair.
for her birthday. And he's talking to us, but of all the pics he sends us, which is not many, there is one in particular that I think just sort of
Good memory.
is perfect.
Yeah, it's on screen. Everyone look at the screen. Yona is, there's about a 10-second delay, so it'll show up right there. Yona is a fabulous 60. There she is.
Oh, right. Happy birthday, Yona.
Happy birthday,
Yes.
Yona. Right there on screen in the Caribbean.
So I think they might have taken this picture just for me,
Of course they did, Quentin. Of course they did, Quentin.
but it is applicable to more than just me.
You know what's fun? The sign, for those that are listening on Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts and cannot see the visual, the sign, we've shown a photo of Yona in the Caribbean, and the sign says, you know what's fun about being sober? Nothing. That's what the sign says.
And Yona, look at her. That image belies her age.
Oh, no doubt. 100%.
It is incredible. I think Keith must have some sort of mind control over her or something. 'Cause
He just put in the feed, and I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Oh, shit, Yona's going to kill me. He's watching in the Caribbean. You guys are awesome. I love Elena and Bert, and I love Quentin and Judah. You do a hell of a job adapting on the fly right here, scrambling behind the scenes. For those that didn't know, he made this happen. How about some closing thoughts on any topic we have covered here for the viewers and listeners?
I think there could be one good thing with oil prices going up over $100. Is that's kind of a tipping point where we can do more exploration and drilling here in the United States if we're trying to alleviate some of the dependency overseas. When it goes under, it's easier to import than it is to find it here in the United States.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Maybe even more of a priority on EVs, which would be better for the environment. And let's not forget I know it's not a Vespa. What is it that you guys have?
Vespas.
Oh, it is Vespa?
Yeah.
Let's not forget the potential of Vespas.
Yeah.
Bert and Elena are huge fans of Vespas.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
trying to start a gang.
She wants to start a Vespa gang.
I'm going to
very
call
intimidating
it the
Vespa gang.
Hello Kitty gang.
Oh, gosh. Elena, how about some closing thoughts?
I think I've been saying this for the past couple of years. Be kind. Be kind to your wait staff. Be kind to your restaurant owners. Be kind to your small businesses. They're all feeling the pain and crunch of this. So just remember to be kind.
I love it. Amen. QB.
I think as we've moved through the last several months, I am reminded of just how fortunate I am and how much more thankful I need to be on a day-by-day basis. There is this sense in our world that somebody like me owns businesses and makes money because they have some special secret sauce. And there's certainly work and things that go into it, but a lot of where we are in life today is happenstance by just luck. And so I have to remember that sometimes the things we give, the things we receive, or it's not necessarily like we ran a race and won it, or we did something amazing. It's just luck of the draw of families we were born into, where we were born, opportunities that we had, and just a reminder to be a little more gracious to others that maybe didn't have those, and keep them in mind more often, especially at city council meetings, and also to be more thankful that I was born into the opportunities that I was.
Well said. Well said. Judah Wickhauer, give you some props for what you did today on the show and making it happen. QB, great Great job. I think you surpassed Tuesday. The expectations were high, and you surpassed them. And Elena and Bert are just A-plus people. They come to the studio with gifts quite often, and it's much to the delight of those that work here 80 hours a week. So thank you kindly for doing that, Bert and Elena. The I Love Seville show is next, and good Lord, in 40 minutes, so we really got to scramble. And we are going to break some news on the purchase of one brewery making a purchase of another here in Central Virginia. We will lead with that on the show. So guys, get ready, 40 minutes, that news coming for you. Take care. Well done, you guys. Very well done.
Thanks for having us. That was fun.
Always a pleasure.
I never.